Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm dealing with two decks here today, and it is timely because when I was watching the Hermit's Cave yesterday with that group, and we have that live discussion, and Simon was talking about certain questions, and one of them was, do we use meanings, the actual meanings that we studied over the years from all the books? Or do we use intuition? Or is it a combination of both? Well, with the new decks that are coming out, I think some of those definitions are changing for us. The deck I'm using, a couple cards from in today's layout, is from the Change Tarot, and the other one is the Transient Light Tarot. Now, these are two decks that for some reason they feel right to be together for me. So I've done a little layout down here below, and I wanted to just bring a few words from each of the books that brings a different perspective to the cards. And I think as a tarot reader, we have to stay on top of how perspectives are changing, how people's attitudes are changing. Life is quite busy right now, and some of the information is quite good within these two books. So let's just flip the cards this way a bit so that you can see the cards I'm working with. So these two here are from the Change Tarot, and the ones through the middle are the Transient Light Tarot. Now, the Chariot card. So if you think for a minute what that means to you, if you're a seasoned reader, and then I ask you to consider these other options here. And I found it really, really fun to have a fresh perspective. Now, with the one on the left being the Chariot, it talks about life is both yeses and nos, and we don't get what we want all the time. Now, I've heard this come up a lot in the last several years that there's a new generation and people want what they want and they want it immediately, and sometimes they don't want to do the work for it. It's just something I want to bring towards working with the Chariot card. Now, it continues in the book and says, and sometimes we do get what we want only to realize it's a trap, and now we feel hopelessly stuck as though we're cemented inside a vehicle that we want out of, like the character in the Chariot. Then what do we do? So you can see, if you look at that, would your intuition have picked up on the fact that he does look like he's cemented there? And then it goes on. The Chariot reveals the limitations of willpower and the dangers of believing life is simply a series of completing difficult tasks and yoking wild bulls so they'll do what we want them to do. And while it's true that willpower can take us many places, we should keep in mind that stuckness is one of them. Really refreshing take on the cards. So now let's go on to the Justice card. Not your typical one, but all the symbols are there, and that's from the Transient Light Tarot. And if we look at 11, it's got in here some poetry as well. So it says, place your finger lightly on the lawyer's pursed lips. Harness the power of a Sharon Stone cinematic moment and say, shh. Now pick up your sword, cut the score, sever the lies in two, and birth the truth. Again, poetry is a nice little break from the norm in here, but when we get to actual meanings, truth can be handed down like a sword. You can choose to brandish it or conceal it, but truth will emerge eventually. However hard you try to bury it, another will come along and dig it up. Avoid greater losses later by making decisions justly and with consideration of the consequences. Pick up the sword in your dominant hand, the scales in the other, and seek justice for yourself and for others. Kind of neat. Now let's go on to the Seven of Wands here. And you see he's got quite a look on his face, and he seems to be coming up against some pushback. So if we look at the Seven of Wands, angry interactions can be some of the most painful and scary, but also present us with some important opportunities for healing and growth. He appears angry, but there is a sense that there's also a feeling of being afraid or feeling vulnerable. The image sparks curiosity, which is rarely the case on the receiving end of anger. And it goes on to a really neat section where it says, to be deeply listened to when you're angry is not common. As long as you're safe, to validate someone who is expressing anger or to be heard and validated in your own anger is to co-create an alternative experience for someone who's likely expecting not to be heard, perhaps even punished for their feelings. These two decks, I think, have a lot of information to share. Now, if we go on to the Five of Coins, and that is from the Transient Light. Let's just see what it has to say. Because usually it's not a card that people like to get. There's that feeling of not enough, and that I need more, that I want more, and how do I get it? This one talks about there's a loss at the expense of another's gain. Pearls snatched from the hands of those who need them more. Pearls accumulated to flaunt wealth or power, void of meaningful purpose. Now, when I think of pearls, I think of wisdom. So is it actually coins that we've lost, or is it wisdom? And that's where a tarot reader brings in their intuition to a reading. But if we're going to go by the book, it talks with the Five of Coins as being there's a lack of generosity, either with yourself or others. How can a healthier balance be achieved? Consider who or what you contribute to and how you can champion justice, which is nice that it sits right below the Justice card. If you've been shortchanged, find justice in being a force for good in your own dealings with others. Well, I couldn't help myself after yesterday's video. I thought of these decks and I thought of the different perspective that they offer. And we have to once in a while, I think, rethink the definitions according to where we are, where we've come from. I think we do have to use our intuition, but when doing a deck like this, that is a much younger voice, younger than I am, I felt the need to really honor and listen to its voice. And if I'm going to take these cards out and use them in public, I'll be dealing with different age groups, and maybe the cards then will be picked according to that. But I could also just take the information that's in here, digest it, and see where I can use it in the future. Because times are changing, and people come from such different perspectives these days, and we have to be open and know how to deliver those messages in a motivational way. And I still think that's the basis of tarot. Tap into the time you have to share together with the querent that you're reading for, and try to ask the right questions that will lead them on a path forward. I hope that this hasn't bored you to tears, but I think even watching videos like yesterday's in the Hermit's Cave, those topics, they stimulate us. And if we want to make a change or a difference, how do we do it? I just got to put that out for you. And I think that, just as even a deck that, two decks that are wonderfully paired together with similar voices. And I thought, let's just change a few cards before I let you go and see what you think of pairing these two decks together. If you have them, have you found the voice similar? I think this color is very dominant to the whole combination here. So this might be one of the cards I go to first. That would be my intuition clicking in. And then, you could go on to the 10 of wheel and the 6 of coins and just work your story. But at least the deck seems to have a voice. We're going from sorrow and possible misery and loss, but looking for an opportunity with the Page of Pentacles, something solid we can grab onto. And then maybe it's through this exchange and this lucky exchange. They feel the same. They're exactly the same size. The one on the left is the change. And that takes in this one here. And these backgrounds, they look like that. So if you were shuffling them, I think they appeared just fine together. So let's take a few more cards. I like the coloring in the Change of Tarot, the way it stands out a little bit different than the Transient light one. So it sort of hems it in, frames it, I guess. So we've got a victory here, but possibly with the 8 of Vessels, not everything is perfect. There is a challenge, and then we've got the Devil card, and that means so many different things to so many different people. Maybe go take a chunk of that away and see, because we seem to be in the same vein of cards there. So anyway, I thought I'd put that out there. It was a bit of a challenge for me that I enjoyed, and this will be a deck that, I'll be looking for other pairings, but these two voices really resonate strongly with me. Have a great day, enjoy, and if there's anything you want to share back here with me, I'll be watching for your comments.